Mike, check. Justin Hunt. It's all happening. Thank you to everybody who's supporting this channel. Subscribe to the channel, shares any video, shares the good word, the good news with what we're doing here on the Company Man YouTube channel. Big thank you to everyone who's donated to the channel, whether that's on the Cash App or through the Linktree. You can hit the Linktree link in the description, and the Cash App is right up there if you'd like to donate. Big thank you to Dia Pitts and Encore Meta. That's really dope of y'all. They donated to the channel to help forward this mission. I really appreciate it. And big shout out to all my members, all the members. We've got a bunch of new people who joined. We're at 87 members, y'all. We've been pushing towards 100. We got 13 more for 100. So big thank you to Ethan Schaefer, Designing Saturn, Elijah Mir, Mahip Greasy, that's dope. He's got a Montreal Canadiens logo for his avatar there. Martin Gomez, I think I shouted you out the other day, but you get two because you're still so dope. Stephen P, big shout out to Stephen P. Cole Dickin, Dolph Gurgle, Eric Elliott. Eric, look at this. I think this might be a record-breaking day, man. Thank you to everybody sincerely for joining this community. 9-second applause. Thank you. All right, big show today. Three pretty big topics. I'd say three pretty big topics. We've been talking a lot about this battle and this beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar. It's the biggest story of the year. It's drowning out almost everything else that's happening in hip-hop. And I think for good reason. You have the two biggest artists of this past 15 years, arguably, definitely of the past decade. And, they went head-to-head, and there's all kinds of broader repercussions. The whole industry jumped on, teamed up as the Rap Avengers and expressed how they felt about Drake. You got Childish Gambino coming in late. Everybody seems to be dropping albums, too. So there's all kinds of fodder for the conversation. So we're going to have another development on that front. But before I do that, I want to give a shout out to Read My Soul, S-O-L-E. He has a YouTube channel. He covers music, comic books, and sneakers. You should check it out. He made a really great point in his recent video. And I think it connects to this battle because we're talking about the big three. The big three, Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick Lamar, and how they've been running things for the past 15 years or so, right? They've been looked at as the big three of that generation. And there's also a lot of questions around who's the next big three. Like, who would be the next big three after Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick? And I've heard people, kind of bring it up in passing in different places. But Read My Soul made a great point. He was like, yeah, the last big three, the last leaders of the next generation, all the leaders of the next generation died. He pointed out that they all died. He pointed out XXX. He talked about Pop Smoke. He talked about Juice WRLD. He talked about Young Dolph. And, it wasn't until that video put it in that context for me that I really thought about that. I mean, all those guys were commercial titans, but also cultural titans. All of those guys were fast on their way to leaving a major imprint on the talisman of this culture. And sadly, all of them have passed away. I'll put a link to that video in the description here. Make sure you check that video out. He does a good job of really talking about the influence they had, talking about, just the connection with their audience and the culture. But, it's crazy to think about that. Like, this year has been about the big three and the Rap Avengers and big as a Super Bowl and all these things. And the next big three, unfortunately, passed away. It's really tragic to think about, but it's a really dope video by Read My Soul. So I just want to shout him out for that. Now, on to the story. On to the first story of the day. Now, when we're talking about this battle, because this seems to come up all the time, and, I've been going back and forth with different people who tell me that Kendrick was the one who started the mudslinging. I point out how, Whitney, Drake started saying Whitney on push-ups. And truthfully, on Taylor Made Freestyle, I don't think it was as big of a deal, but at the end of Taylor Made Freestyle, Drake talks about how, Kendrick, I know you're struggling in that New York City apartment of yours. I know you're struggling. I know it. I know it. And that was alluding to problems between Kendrick and Whitney, to the point where there was a rumor out there that Kendrick had to buy a penthouse in Brooklyn and was living there because he was estranged from Whitney. So the first two times Drake comes out, he's mentioning family and friends and alluding to their relationship not being in the best of circumstances. That's the first two, the first two songs that came out. Well, there's some interesting rumors that have now come out around that. So here's two pieces I want to show you. First, Joe Budden. Joe Budden on the Joe Budden podcast talked about how he heard that Drake and Kendrick actually spoke to each other before the battle started and decided that they were going to keep family and friends out of it. They decided they're going to keep family and friends out of it. Here's what Joe Budden has to say.
He genuinely fuck with him.
Yeah,
I also
heard that Drake and Kendrick had a talk before any diss record was released. I don't know if that's true or not, but I heard they spoke.
I can see it.
Did you hear how the conversation went?
Yeah, it went like the Teddy Pendergrass part of the shit. Hey, how do you want this to go? What we doing? Oh, we rapping? Okay, then let's keep it. And he didn't keep it up. So
when he told them that a bunch of times.
I know, that's why it's not even like real tea.
Yeah, he told them that a bunch of times.
It's only tea because to say it to him on the phone, like I know what that's like as when you about to fucking tear a nigga. Let me call and make sure first. Hey man, we doing this for real? You dead ass? Oh my God.
Yo, you know
I mean, you know, I'm not sure how big of a revelation that is. I'm not sure if it's a revelation. I think, you know, these are two professional people at the top of industry. Even if they might have problems, even if they might not be the closest of friends necessarily, people still generally have professional respect for each other. And so before you go out here and just start saying crazy stuff and everybody burns everything down, man, yeah, let's see what the rules of engagement are. We just had I guess it's the second debate, but we had the first debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris last night. Before there's any debate, there's all kinds of back and forth about what the rules are going to be. Do we mute microphones? Do people get to rebuttal? Will there be an audience? How big is the venue? Where will the venue be? Same thing with boxing matches. So hearing that these two talked puts a lot in a fresher context. Puts things in a fresher context. Joe Budden just said that before any diss tracks started flying around. Right, so potentially, let's say that's after first-person shooter. I wouldn't call first-person shooter a diss track as much as it feels like another sub, because they had been subbing about who's better for a decade. All three of them, truthfully. So let's say before Like That drops. Well, that would explain why Like That doesn't get into family personal things. Let's say it's after Like That. Well, Kendrick had already set the table, set the standard with Like That. Hey, we just keep it like that. There's no family personal things and Like That. It is a scathing diss track, but in comparison to the rest of these joints, you know, this is tepid. It's tepid. It's really tepid. Then you get to push-ups, and the hook is, I'll be with some bodyguards like Whitney all over the place, talking about Top Dog. And then you get Tailor-Made Freestyle, which offended most people again because of the AI Tupac, the AI Snoop Dogg. But at the end of that track, he says, Doc, I know you struggling in that NY apartment. I know it. And the conversation around that, again, was that he and Whitney were having problems. It was covered in the news around that point in time. In the grand scale, in the grand scheme, that might feel like a lesser track in this back and forth. But if this is true of what Joe Budden is saying, that they talked beforehand and they said, hey, we're going to keep family and friends out of it. If they're going to do that, well, that's 2 tracks in a row where he's making illusions. So then he comes with Euphoria and says we should keep it a family-friendly fade. You should keep it that way. And then reiterates, public opinion that Drake was a less than devoted father. You don't know nothing about that. Waking him up, know nothing about that. Tell him to pray, know nothing about that. I've heard people say that, well, that's actually talking about family too. That's actually worse. Sure. But by that point in time, there's already been 2 illusions. And he still was willing to keep it a friendly fade. Then you get 616 in LA, which doesn't have any family things on it. Then you get Family Matters, where Drake jumps out the window. And then Meet the Grams, and then Not Like Us, and that's where we are. But this is very, very interesting. Now, this also ties to a conversation that happened on The Bigger Picture on Hip Hop DX 4 months ago when the battle was happening, or right after it. Elliott Wilson, DJ Head, and Jeremy Hecht were talking about this very same rumor, that the 2 had talked. Here's Jeremy.
Did have a back and forth beforehand, and I don't know this to be true, but the rumor is that they, which is why I'm asking. The rumor was that they had a conversation beforehand and said, we're not going to make it personal. We're not going to go there. And then if that was the conversation and that was violated by bringing family into it, then I could see the other side being like, well, all bets are off. Do you know any truth?
Look at that. Look at that. Now, we're going to get to what Head says next. But look at Head. Head is the press chairman for Team PG Lang. Unofficial spokesperson. You heard what Jeremy just said. Look at that dap. Look at that quiet compliance right there. Look at that quiet cosign. Let's see what Jeremy says, or let's see what Head says.
To that matter of a conversation.
Kendrick has said more personal, salacious stuff in his battle towards Drake than Drake has toward Kendrick. Huh?
When? You're a timestamp.
After you're saying that Drake did it first.
You're a timestamp person. When?
So I slap you once, you can slap me 25, 30 times.
No, if you slap me, the homies are going to pack you out. That's where we come from. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. When you understand the culture, I came up under a lot of street dudes, cultural leaders, right?
Salute to those gentlemen.
I came up under a lot of cultural leaders, right? A lot of community activists. Right?
Very active activists.
Yeah. Community activists, right? And where we're from, they told me, and you can ask any person, don't have to even tell me who you ask. If they know me, they know how we get down out here. I've always been told that there are no fair ones.
Wow.
Yep. What I'm saying is, where we're from, that's not the case. The ultimate test of manhood is to run. Yes, you can catch now, a difference between, and this is also stuff that you've heard in the music. A friendly is not the same thing. When you catch a friendly, you don't get maxed out. You don't get packed out. I'm using terms that probably people from where you're from ain't gonna understand. But when you shoot, how you say friendly fade? When you shoot when me and you have a disagreement, but we're homies, that's a friendly. We fight.
Piece it up after.
And we piece it up after, right? That's a friendly. When it's not a friendly, and you from across the tracks, that's not a friendly fade. There ain't no fair ones. Where we from, that's not how it works. You would know that if you were authentically a part of the culture.
Do you think that Drake and Kendrick could have had a friendly fade?
I'm not here to say that or not, but I'm sure that if I can speak that if he was up for it, it would have been an option.
So here's another example of, in this case, DJ Head dapping up Jeremy, that Drake and Kendrick talked before it. Okay. So I guess if I'm part of the Drake Glazer community, I'm looking for anything that makes me feel the way that I feel. You know what I mean? I feel like this was unfair, and I feel like this was slighted, and I feel like maybe Kendrick took it too far, and maybe I feel like, you know, like Academics was saying the other day, and Yachty said in his podcast that one time, like, oh, well, it's just unfair. All this is unfair. Everybody's unfair against Drake. Everybody's teaming up on Drake, and it's unfair. All these things are happening to Drake. The more time that passes, the more things that come out, the more opportunities that I see where Drake could have avoided all of this if he was just a better person. He could have completely escaped this Shakespearean shakedown if he was just a better person. Let me know what you guys think. My name is Justin Hunt. Like, subscribe to the channel, follow @TheCompanyMan on everything. It's all happening.
Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. The mathematical breakdown of this mighty game of rap we in. It's boom bapping. Systematical culture views us radical, it's all happening. Shaking hands and dapping it. Life through the lens of hip hop, from trip hop to yes, y'all, you don't stop, you don't stop. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening.